हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम बैक टू माय चैनल। तो आज की वीडियो में पढ़ने जा रहे हैं द कैप्टन्स पेपर एंड द जर्नी बिगिंस। रेजर राइटिंग द स्टोरी बुक। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं द कैप्टन्स पेपर से। द मैन वर रेवेन्यू ऑफिसर्स। The boy, who was to go to the doctor's house, had met them on his way and brought them here immediately, for which I was very thankful. We took my mother up to the village, and she recovered in a few minutes. The officers rode on after the villains, but they returned without catching any of them. This wasn't surprising. They looked so much care not to be attacked that the pirates had all the time they needed to escape. We returned to the inn, which was in a state you could never imagine. Everything was smashed or broken. However, other than the captain's money bag and some money from the money box, nothing was taken. What were they after? The chief officer superintendent Dance asked. More money. No, sir, I replied. I think I have what they were looking for in my pocket, and I must get it to safety, perhaps. To Dr. Livesey. The man nodded carefully and we out. He also had to report Pius' death to the doctor as he was the migrated when we reached the doctor's house. We were told that he was up at the squire's house. We had there or at the squire's hall. We were led into the library. The doctor and the squire were sitting near the fire. In a few minutes, Superintendent Dance told his story. The two gentlemen leaned forward and listened with great interest, even forgetting the smoke. The whole wheel, Mr. Dance, said the doctor, when he finished. You have done really well. And you took young Hawkins. He sent for a drink for the officer and super for me, and I handed him the pocket. He explained it closely and quietly put it into his coat's pocket. As I ate the suppers that was laid before me, the man continued to talk. Soon Superintendent Dance left, and only the three of us remained. The gentleman continued to talk well. I listened. Flint was the most bloodiest pirate that had ever sailed, and everyone feared him. He had looted ships and collected so much gold that there must have been left a treasure hidden somewhere. Maybe the pocket had some clue about where his hoard was buried. This was the doctor's idea, and the squares jumped up excitedly. If it has a clue in it, I tell you, I will get myself a ship in Bristol and take you and Hawkins and find that gold, even if it takes me a full year. The doctor launched, and seeing I had finished eating, called me closer to the table. He cut the bundle open carefully, which was went so tight that he had to use his medicine scissors from the instrument case. It had two things, a book and a sealed paper. As the doctor opened the book, we looked angrily over his shoulder. On the first page there were some scraps of writing as if a man had written for practice. The the latter pages had a strange set of entire that we puzzled over sums of money with different number of crosses next to each. The date showed that the entire covered nearly 20 years, and Square suddenly released that he had found Flint account book We turned our attention to the sealed paper. The doctor carefully broke the seal, and we saw that it was a map of an island with the latitude and longitude, and there and three crosses at different spots. Next to the cross in the southwest was written Blunk of treasure hidden here. The squire jumped to his feet. Tomorrow I will start for Bristol, and the doctor will give up his practice at once. And in 3 hours, no 2 weeks, no 10 days time, we will have the best ship, and young Hawkins will come as cabin boy. He continued in his excited tone for quite some time. The doctor listened patiently and finally broke in. We shall take some of our own men along with us, whom we can trust, but I must warn you to maintain complete secrecy in this. You understand, Square? Televan nodded. I will be as silent as I are grave. In the end, getting ready to sail took much longer than was we had imagined. The doctor went to London to handed over his practice to someone else, and I was kept all by myself at the squire's house until I felt like prisoner. But I enjoyed myself imagining how the islands would be. Finally, Square's delivered got the ship ready. He wrote to me at the hall and the doctor in London, giving us his news. He had arranged for a ship named Hispaniola to take us to the treasure island. As I read the letter, I could see that he was very excited and that a number of people knew about the treasure hunt already. He also mentioned a careful and very capable cook he had hired for the ship, a one-legged man named Long John Silver with a parrot named Captain Flint. Everything sounded perfect, and I could hardly wait to leave. The journey begins. Fifth part. Sixth part. Spent one day with my mother before I left for Bristol. She was much happier now than I had seen her in a long time, with the inn repaired and no captain to trouble her. In fact, the squire had even hired another boy to help her around the inn. My mother seemed so of him that I became madly jealous and didn't want him to take my place. But then I left the next day and arrived in Bristol, forgetting all about the boy and even my mother in my excitement. We were to sail the following day. The squire gave me a note to take to an inn after my breakfast to be handed over to Long John Silver. I followed the directions I had been given and soon found myself at the place. A man entered the hall and I waited and I knew at once that the silver was himself. He had only one leg and walked with the help of a crutch, but he looked tall and strong and healthy. He looked intelligent and he smiled as he came and spoke to me. This revealed me of a secret fear I had since reading this Square's letter. What if this was the dead captain's faithful, one-legged stranger? But this man was all right. He looked nothing like Pew or even Black Dog. I handed him the letter and he shook hands with me as if I were an old friend. You must be the cabin boy, he said with a smile, and I decided then what I liked him very much. I needed. Suddenly, as we spoke, I saw Black Dog leaving the inn and shouted out loud. Silver immediately cried out to the other man to catch him, and in meanwhile I told him all that I knew of Black Dog. He listened carefully and roared and sobbed so hard afterwards that I was sure that he was no friend of the villains. He even returned with me when I went to the square's inn and told all that all had happened with great enthusiasm. Thought, I don't always trust your choice, Squares, the doctor said after Silver left. I really like this man. I nodded in wholehearted great man. The squids and doctor and I then went to where the ship was docked. The captain's assistant joined us. He was a very nice person, but I didn't like the captain's much. A man called Smolten, and neither did the squares. He seemed displeased with everyone on the ship, and we soon discovered the reason when he took us into his cabin. I don't like the voyage. I don't like my assistant, and I mostly certain don't like my man, he said. It turned out had he was obtained offended that the man seemed to know more about the trip than he himself did. Just he had just discovered that they would be hunting for hidden treasure, whereas all the others had long known of it. Not only that, they even knew the very latitude and longitude of the islands that we were to go to. Besides, he felt that he should have been allowed to choose his own sailors. He also did not think that his assistant was the kind of man who would make a good officer. We listened the squares with growing irritation. The doctor patiently and me silently. Finally, the doctor's tract saved the situations, and everybody was satisfied with a few simple safety measures. The rest of the day, that day, and the following night flew past. As we prepared to sail, I was dog tired when we finally left the port, but still I remained on the deck, quietly excited by all that was happening around me. The man sang the song I knew so well as we guilted out 15 men on the dead man's chest. Yo ho ho, and a bottle of rum. Drink and the devil had gone for the rest. Yo ho ho, and a bottle of rum. It was the beginning of a good journey. As we sailed, it became obvious that the captain was right to some extent. The men didn't care at all about anything that the captain's assistant said to them, and soon it seemed that this man was a drunkard. Where he got the drink was a mystery we never solved. And then one night he just vanished. I also learned about barbecue, as the crew called upon Long John Silver. He was well educated and an excellent fighter. The crews respected and obeyed him, and he always had a friendly word for everyone. To me, particularly, he was like an old friend, and everyone on board was happy even when there was a bad weather and the ship was toasted by the waves. There was no bad feeling. The square was very generous, and every man's birthday was celebrated. He even had a barrel of apple placed on the deck. Thought apple cost a lot. Anybody could eat them if if they felt like it. All of which only made the shock worse when I discovered the truth about Silver and the other man's plan. Thank you for watching.